What if I told you that motivation is a lie? That what you've been chasing, those dopamine highs from TED Talks, productivity hacks, and self-help books, is nothing but a sugar rush for the soul. You've been tricked. And today we're going to destroy that illusion. We're about to dive headfirst into a philosophy so raw and unapologetically real that it doesn't just slap you awake, it rips the blindfold off permanently. Imagine unlocking a mindset so powerful, so detached from the chaos of modern life, that you become immune to distraction, immune to failure, and immune to fear. This is not hype. This is Schopenhauer.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Arthur Schopenhauer, often called the philosopher of pessimism, didn't believe in the shiny promises of motivation. He believed in truth. And truth, according to him, isn't pretty. It's brutal. But in that brutality lies liberation. When you stop chasing the illusions of a perfect life, when you stop expecting happiness to arrive at your doorstep like a package from Amazon, something strange happens. You become calm. You become focused. You become free. This freedom isn't found in a vision board or a 5-year plan. It's found in understanding the deepest nature of human suffering and transcending it. You're not here to be motivated. You're here to wake up. Ask yourself, why do you want motivation? Is it because you feel stuck? Because you're lost? Because your life doesn't look the way you thought it would? Motivation is a drug we use to numb the existential pain of being alive. But Schopenhauer offers something different. He offers understanding. He offers mastery of the mind. He doesn't tell you to chase pleasure or success. He tells you to see through them. He tells you to rise above. Schopenhauer believed that at the core of human existence is not happiness, but will. An unconscious, irrational, relentless force that drives all beings to strive, to desire, to want. This will is never satisfied. You get what you want, and then you want something else. Sound familiar? That's why motivation fails. Because it's tied to desire. And desire is a trap. You're running on a treadmill that never stops. You're sprinting toward a finish line that doesn't exist. But what if you stepped off the treadmill? What if you stopped running, not because you gave up, but because you woke up? Imagine a life where you're not constantly pulled by cravings. A life where ambition isn't your master, but your servant. That's the superior mind. It doesn't react. It reflects. It doesn't chase. It chooses. And it begins with a radical shift in perspective, understanding that suffering is not a glitch in the system, it is the system. Once you accept this, everything changes. You stop asking, how can I be happy? And start asking, how can I live wisely? And yes becomes a byproduct, not a goal. Are you beginning to see the difference? Think about the last time you were deeply unhappy. Maybe it was heartbreak, failure, or just a sense of emptiness. You probably thought something was wrong with you, that you weren't trying hard enough, that you needed more motivation. But what if nothing was wrong? What if that emptiness was a clue, not a curse? Schopenhauer would say that in that moment you touched the truth. You glimpsed the futility of endless striving, and instead of fighting it, you could have used it, transformed it. That's the path of the superior mind. We've been taught to fear suffering, to medicate it, escape it, drown it in distractions. But Schopenhauer teaches us to study it, to sit with it, to understand that suffering is the price of consciousness. The more aware you become, the more you see the pain woven into existence. But that awareness also gives you power. Power to detach, power to transcend, power to choose meaning over comfort. And let me ask you something. What if your suffering is the key to your liberation? You see, the superior mind doesn't seek constant stimulation. It seeks solitude. Not loneliness, but solitude, the sacred space where the noise of the world fades and your inner voice becomes clear. That's where you begin to understand your nature. That's where you discover that most of your desires aren't even yours. They've been implanted by society, by marketing, by culture. The superior mind isn't reactive, it's reflective. It pauses. It questions. It observes. So I ask you, when was the last time you truly sat in silence and listened to your own mind without judgment? Schopenhauer knew that most people are slaves to their impulses. He didn't hate mankind. He pitied it, because he saw how deeply we suffer from our own illusions. We chase pleasure, status validation, thinking they'll save us. But they only deepen the void. The superior mind doesn't chase. It cultivates. It cultivates discipline, clarity, and inner wealth. Not the kind you can post about, but the kind that makes you unshakable in a world built on chaos. The world tells you to chase your dreams. Schopenhauer tells you to examine them, to ask, why do I want this? Who told me this would make me happy? What am I really seeking? And when you strip away the layers, you often find that your dreams are just echoes of someone else's voice. The superior mind doesn't echo, it creates. It doesn't conform, it questions. And it doesn't beg for motivation, it builds meaning. Now, let's talk about willpower. Schopenhauer didn't believe in some magical, endless well of willpower. He saw it as a limited resource, easily drained by mindless striving. That's why the superior mind doesn't waste energy on superficial goals. It selects its battles. It conserves its strength for what actually matters. And here's the paradox. When you stop wasting effort on shallow pursuits, you become more powerful than ever. Because your energy is no longer scattered, it's focused. Razor focused on truth, on growth, on mastery. You don't need more motivation, you need more clarity. Motivation is emotional, it comes and goes. But clarity is stable. It's rooted in understanding. And understanding comes from stillness, from reflection, from a willingness to face the uncomfortable truths of existence. So many people are afraid of slowing down, afraid of silence, afraid of being alone with their thoughts. But that fear is the very reason they're lost. The superior mind embraces the silence, because in that silence lies the blueprint for a life of depth, of purpose, of peace. Think about how much time you spend trying to escape discomfort, through your phone, through entertainment, through endless to-do lists. But what if you leaned into the discomfort? What if you allowed yourself to feel the full weight of your existence? Not to wallow in it, but to understand it. That's what Schopenhauer teaches us. That discomfort is not the enemy, it's the teacher. And the superior mind is always learning, always observing, always refining. There's a reason most people never develop a superior mind. It requires solitude, self-discipline, and a brutal honesty with yourself. It's not glamorous. It won't get you applause, but it will get you freedom. And in a world where everyone is chasing attention, freedom is the ultimate rebellion. When you no longer need to prove yourself, when you no longer need the world's approval, you become dangerous. Because you can't be manipulated. You can't be bought. You can't be broken. So where does this leave us? With a question. A question so deep it might haunt you in the best way. If you stop chasing motivation, if you let go of every external goal, every shallow desire, what would be left? Who would you be if you weren't trying to be anyone? This is the doorway to the superior mind. It begins not with a goal, but with a letting go, not with striving, but with seeing. Seeing clearly, seeing deeply. And once you see, you can never unsee. You realize that most of your suffering came not from life itself, but from your resistance to it, and from expecting life to be something it's not. Schopenhauer didn't want us to become apathetic. He wanted us to become wise, to stop living like sleepwalkers and start living like sages. And that wisdom doesn't come from books alone. It comes from experience, from suffering, from choosing depth over distraction. Let's go deeper. If you're still here, you're not just curious, you're searching. You're hungry for something real, something most people are too afraid to even look for. And that tells me one thing: you're ready. Ready to understand what Schopenhauer meant when he said that the world is my representation. That's right. The world you think you live in, it doesn't exist independently of your mind. It's filtered, shaped, distorted by your perceptions, your desires, your fears. You're not seeing reality, you're seeing your version of it. And that's the beginning of true power, to know that your mind constructs your experience. Now, think about what that means. If the world is a projection of your inner state, then changing the world means changing yourself. Not in the superficial way that most self-help preaches, but in a radical, structural way. You don't just slap a new habit over an old wound. You dig, you excavate, you confront the unconscious machinery that's been driving your life without your permission. Schopenhauer called it the will, blind, relentless, and buried deep beneath your conscious thoughts. It's not logical. It doesn't care about your goals. It just wants, and wants, and wants, forever. You're not crazy for feeling restless. You're not broken for being unsatisfied even after getting what you thought you wanted. You're human. The will is built into your programming. But here's the twist: you don't have to obey it. You can become aware of it. You can observe it. And in that observation, you create space to choose differently. That's why the superior mind isn't driven by will. It's driven by awareness. It watches the storm, but it doesn't get swept up in it. It feels the craving, but it doesn't chase it. Ask yourself this: how many of your life decisions have been based on avoiding discomfort rather than seeking truth? How many paths have you followed just because they were familiar, easy, or praised by others? The superior mind doesn't avoid discomfort, it walks straight into it. Not to suffer for the sake of suffering, but to burn away illusion. Every layer of comfort you strip away brings you closer to clarity. Every false belief you dissolve clears the fog from your perception. And that's what Schopenhauer was really after, not happiness, but clear seeing. He didn't think happiness was the ultimate goal. In fact, he thought it was a dangerous illusion. Because most happiness is just the temporary absence of pain. You get what you want, and for a moment, the suffering stops. But it always comes back. The will returns. The craving starts again. That's why Schopenhauer believed that the happiest people are not the ones who get what they want, but the ones who want less, and the ones who detach, the ones who see through the game and stop playing it. This doesn't mean giving up. It means waking up. It means using your intelligence not to manipulate the world into giving you more comfort, but to liberate yourself from needing it. It means asking a question most people never dare to ask: what am I willing to live without? Not because I have to, but because I choose to. Because I want freedom more than pleasure. Because I want depth more than distraction. Because I want to live, not just exist. Schopenhauer admired ascetics, those who renounced worldly pleasures, not because they were saints, but because they had seen the trap. They had seen that chasing pleasure only leads to pain, that every high has a crash, that every success breeds new anxiety. So they stepped off the wheel. They didn't run from life, they transcended it. And that's what the superior mind does. It doesn't just cope with suffering. It transforms it into wisdom. We live in a world obsessed with comfort. We're scared. But comfort is a drug. It dulls the edge of your awareness. It makes you soft, weak, reactive. Comfort is the enemy of clarity, and clarity is the foundation of power. That's why the superior mind doesn't seek comfort, it seeks confrontation. It confronts itself, its fears, its contradictions, and its shadows. It looks in the mirror and doesn't flinch. Can you say the same? Here's a question that will change your life if you're honest with it. What truths are you avoiding? What parts of yourself are you afraid to face? The superior mind doesn't run from these questions. It lives in them. It makes them its home, and in that home, something incredible happens. You stop being afraid of being exposed, because you've already exposed yourself to yourself. You've already faced your own darkness, and once you do that, no one can use it against you. Now let's talk about solitude, not loneliness. Solitude. They are not the same. Loneliness is when you're disconnected from others. Solitude is when you're connected to yourself. Most people avoid solitude because it's uncomfortable. Because when the noise stops, the inner chaos becomes audible. But that chaos is your teacher. That discomfort is the gateway. Solitude is not empty, it's full. Full of truth, insight, clarity. And the superior mind seeks it out like a monk seeks a mountain. Schopenhauer believed that genius thrives in solitude. That the deepest thoughts, the most original insights, come not from social interaction but from deep internal dialogue. When was the last time you spent a day alone, not to escape the world, but to understand it, and to understand yourself? Most people fill every silent moment with distractions. But the superior mind turns down the volume of the world so it can hear the whisper of truth. This is why Schopenhauer admired art, music, and philosophy, not because they offer escape, but because they offer transcendence. They lift us out of the tyranny of the will, even if only for a moment. When you lose yourself in a symphony, in a great book, in a work of beauty, you're not chasing something, you're being. You're not striving, you're seeing. And in those moments, you taste the superior mind. You taste freedom. But don't be fooled. This path is not easy. It demands everything. It demands that you strip away the lies you've told yourself, but that you question the very foundation of your identity, that you let go of your need to be liked, to be right, to be safe. The superior mind is forged in fire. in solitude, in silence, in suffering. But what emerges from that fire is unshakable, not perfect, not bulletproof, but grounded, clear, alive in a way most people will never understand. Do you want that? Really ask yourself. Do you want to be free, or do you just want to feel good? Because those are not the same. Freedom requires sacrifice. It requires the death of your illusions, the death of your ego, the death of the false self you've spent years constructing. But what's born in its place is something real, something that doesn't need motivation, something that doesn't crumble under pressure, something that can walk through chaos with calm. You don't need more motivation, you need more truth. And truth is uncomfortable. It shatters the lies you've been living. It exposes your contradictions, but it also sets you free. Schopenhauer's philosophy is not a roadmap to happiness. It's a scalpel for the soul. It cuts deep, but it cuts away the rot. And what's left, if you're brave enough to endure it, is clarity, power, and peace. So let me ask you again, what are you willing to let go of to become free? What false beliefs are you ready to burn? What distractions are you willing to silence? The superior mind doesn't emerge overnight. It's carved slowly, painfully, through years of reflection, solitude, and relentless honesty. But every step you take toward it is a step away from fear, a step away from illusion, a step toward something deeper than motivation, something more enduring, more profound. You are not your cravings. You are not your thoughts. You are not your past. You are the awareness behind all of it. And the more you remember that, the less the world can shake you, the less you need from others, the less you fear change. The superior mind is not a destination. It's a way of seeing, a way of being, a lens through which the chaos of existence becomes legible. The question is, are you willing to look through that lens, even if it shows you things you don't want to see? Let's finish what we started. If you've made it this far, you're not just listening, you're transforming. You've already stepped beyond the noise of motivation and into the silence of reflection. That silence is sacred. And it's here, in this stillness, that the superior mind is born. But now we must face the hardest truth of all. Even your mind is not entirely yours. It's shaped by forces older and deeper than you: genetics, trauma, culture, evolution. Schopenhauer knew this. He saw the human being not as an enlightened, rational creature, but a puppet pulled by invisible strings, strings called will. The will is not evil. It's nature. It wants life to persist. It wants to feed, reproduce, dominate. It doesn't care about your peace, your dreams, or your sense of meaning. It only wants to continue. The mistake most people make is believing that they are their will. They confuse their desires with their identity. But you are not your desires. You are the witness to them. And when you see them, not blindly obey them, you begin to sever the strings. That's the beginning of inner freedom. What Schopenhauer teaches us is that liberation doesn't come from satisfying every urge. It comes from understanding them, from watching the will without becoming its slave. And this is where philosophy becomes practical. When you feel the pull to impress others, to accumulate, to win, pause. Ask, who is this for? What am I feeding? What am I afraid of? These questions are not meant to shame you. They are meant to awaken you. Because the superior mind doesn't suppress the will, it transcends it through awareness. Let's go deeper. Have you ever noticed that even when you get what you want, the joy fades quickly? That the high of achievement, love or success always gives way to a new hunger? This is not your fault. It's the structure of existence. Schopenhauer called it the pendulum of life, swinging endlessly between pain and boredom. When we desire something, we suffer in its absence. When we obtain it, we suffer from its impermanence. The only escape from this pendulum is detachment, not apathy, not numbness, but philosophical detachment, seeing the game and choosing not to be ruled by it. This is the moment where most people turn back. Because detachment sounds like loss, like giving up on life, but it's the opposite. It's the reclaiming of life. It's choosing how to live, not being dragged by the nose through every craving and emotion. The superior mind doesn't reject life, it reclaims authorship of it. It says, I will feel deeply, but I will not be owned by my feelings. I will strive, but I will not be defined by my success. I will love, but I will not collapse if love leaves me. That is strength. That is clarity. That is freedom. Schopenhauer was not an optimist. He didn't believe in utopias or perfect futures. But that's what makes his philosophy so powerful. It doesn't depend on hope, it depends on truth. And truth is stable. It doesn't change with your mood. It doesn't collapse under pressure. It's the rock you build your life on. And here's a truth most people can't bear: you are not special. You are not owed anything. Life is not fair. Once you accept this, you stop waiting for life to hand you peace. You start creating it. Imagine living in a state where nothing can be taken from you that you haven't already surrendered. Imagine walking through a storm and knowing that your center cannot be touched. That's the superior mind. It's not about controlling the world, it's about controlling how you relate to it. Most people live reactively. They are like leaves in the wind, blown by trends, opinions, fears. But you can be the tree, rooted, still, present. Not because you're numb, but because you've seen the truth. Ask yourself this: what would your life look like if you stopped chasing validation? If you stopped needing to prove your worth? If you stopped running from discomfort? Most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid pain and chase pleasure. But pain is inevitable. Pleasure is fleeting. What's left? Meaning. Meaning is what endures. Meaning is what the superior mind builds. Not out of fantasy, but out of fire. You don't find meaning, you forge it. In solitude. In suffering. In silence. Schopenhauer believed that the highest life was the contemplative life. Not because it's passive, but because it's powerful. To reflect deeply is to reclaim your mind from the noise of the world. It's to see things as they are, not as you wish they were. And in that seeing you become dangerous, because no one can sell you a lie. No one can manipulate your fear. No one can distract you with shiny objects. You've seen through the illusion. You've chosen depth. This is not a philosophy for the faint of heart. It's not for those who want comfort or external success. It's for those who want truth, who are willing to suffer for it, who are willing to lose the old self to gain something indestructible. The superior mind is not a luxury. It's a necessity in a world drowning in distraction and deception. And it's available to anyone who dares to turn inward. But even Schopenhauer knew that pure detachment, while powerful, isn't the final step. There's something else, something deeper. Once you've seen through all illusions, once you've detached from the will, you arrive at compassion. Not the shallow, performative kind, but real, raw compassion. Because when you understand the nature of suffering, you see it in everyone. Not just in the poor or the broken, but in the rich, the powerful, the beautiful. Everyone is pulled by the same will. Everyone is suffering. Everyone is trapped until they wake up. And so the superior mind doesn't become arrogant. It becomes kind. Quietly, powerfully kind. Because it no longer seeks superiority over others. It seeks mastery over itself. And in that mastery it finds peace, not the peace of comfort, but the peace of understanding. The peace of no longer needing more, of no longer running, of simply being. So here we are, at the end of the journey, but also the beginning. You've seen what lies beyond motivation. You've seen the mind of Schopenhauer, the unflinching gaze, the ruthless clarity, the profound detachment. But now the question is, what will you do with it? Will you return to the noise, to the chase, to the emptiness disguised as ambition? Or will you pause? Will you create space to reflect, to let go, to build the inner fortress that no storm can shake? The superior mind is not a destination. It's not something you arrive at with a certificate or a title. It's a daily practice. A way of walking through the world, a way of being with yourself. It's choosing silence when others scream. It's choosing meaning when others distract. It's choosing truth, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. Motivation will fail you. It always does. But clarity won't. Stillness won't. Wisdom won't. And those are the foundations of the superior mind. They are not exciting, they are not viral, but they are eternal. And if you build your life on them, you will find something far better than motivation. You will find freedom, you will find peace. Let me leave you with one final question. Not to answer quickly, but to live with. What would your life look like if you stopped needing it to be anything other than what it is? That is the doorway. That is the challenge. That is the path. And now it's yours.